What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday morning. That means it's time for that EFIN morning after show. Are you guys still high on the Super Bowl? Has the lull or the depression set in that the NFL season is over? I think we're still up. I think we're still up on it, and we are going to talk Super Bowl. We're going to talk some numbers. We'll talk some Pro Bowl inductees, and of course, we're going to talk whatever it is you guys want to talk about. It's Tuesday morning. It's that EFIN morning after show. Let's get it started. Good morning, everybody. I am your host today, Chris Fox. I am joined, as always, via phone, NFL writer Adam Hulse. Adam, welcome back to the show. I mean, I guess this is like the last one of the season, right? I mean, that's really what we're sitting at. This is the culmination of all the hard work, our Super Bowl, if you will. Maybe not quite as spectacular, but we'll have some fun today. How you doing, Adam?
I'm great. Yeah. I mean, another Super Bowl in the books. We dive right into the off season now, and things just keep rolling in the NFL.
Absolutely. Got to do a little bit of housekeeping here to start it off. I got to do this. If you guys saw the graphic when it came up, we are now That Sports Podcast Network. So if you're used to seeing us on Fantasy Sports Core, you'll still see that on Rumble. That is in the process of getting changed. And joining us on That Sports Podcast Network, there we go, is, as you guys can kind of see behind me, the Smoke the Spread team, That Damn Sports Network, which is another division. We'll see more on that in a minute. So if you're watching on Rumble and you're expecting to see That Damn Sports, or you're expecting to see, we are all family. We are all the same network. We'll get more into that as the show goes on, so no problem there. Let's get into it. Let's see it, how it happened.
And goal to go. Play action fake. Right side throw. Touchdown! Kansas City! McCall Hardman with the catch on the right side. A 3-yard touchdown pass in overtime. Kansas City wins the game. 25-22. And the Chiefs Kingdom has started its own history class. Because for the first time in 6,944 days, there is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs, champions of Super Bowl 58 on the heels of Super Bowl 57. The Chiefs do it in overtime.
Now, Adam, we all saw it. I'm sure you stated, obviously you say we all saw it. We all saw it happen. Let's look here as we see the play progress. We see the fake handoff. They talked about this a lot, and then we see Hardman make that quick little cut back, create some separation. We got some stats and some numbers on that, and go ahead and get in the end zone. And of course, most of us know by now, the fun fact is, because of the way they had changed the rules, Hardman didn't even know that he just won the Super Bowl at that point. When he crossed the line, he thought he scored the touchdown. He was happy about it. And you see Mahomes run up afterwards, and Mahomes tells it that he told him, that's, you did it, we won. And that's when it kind of kicks in, and it happens quickly, but even when you were watching it, you didn't see a lot of excitement from the catch for a second. I think even the fans were like, did we just win? Is that it? Is it over? And so that was kind of cool to see that small bit of hesitation. You obviously knew it was over. I knew it was over. I was jumping up and down. What'd you think of this game overall, Adam? And I have to add in here, that clip is property of CBS Sports and NFL. We didn't pay anybody. They'll probably sue us later because we're such a huge program. But we showed it, and that's what we do. We do it for you. We take that risk for you guys. But what do you think of the Super Bowl, Adam?
Couple thoughts that I had on the Super Bowl. For one, the fact that so many 49ers players have come out and said that they didn't know the overtime rules, and they never talked about it in team meetings and never practiced it at all leading up to the Super Bowl or during the playoffs, is a major problem. A lot of Chiefs players have come out and said, we had meetings about the overtime every week. Before each of our playoffs game, we had a meeting in our team room that discussed scenarios and what we're going to do in playoff situations. So, again, one team being a little bit more prepared. My second thought on the Super Bowl, I thought Mahomes was going to end it at the end. I didn't think the game was going to go to overtime. I think me, like a lot of people, thought he was going to get into the end zone before overtime. He didn't, right? How can the Niners give him another chance at that exact same situation? You can't give this guy two chances with the ball in his hands to beat you. They should have went for it in overtime. They should have put the pressure on. Even if they don't get the first down on fourth down there, you can't kick the field goal there. At least you're backing Mahomes up against his own end zone. You got to play some defense and stop him anyway, because he's having a second chance at the exact same thing that he didn't get done at the end of the game. He's too good to stop twice. You can't keep putting the ball and let him decide the outcome of the game. Live and die by your own team. You are on paper the best team in the NFL, the 49ers are, right? You know, like position by position, when you break it all down, go control your own destiny. Don't kick the field goal and hope that the best quarterback in the league doesn't beat you. And my third and final thought on the Super Bowl, and I said it last week and I'll say it again now, can we stop making Patrick Mahomes an underdog? Like, get over this whole underdog thing. Like, making him an underdog in any game from this point forward, like, you're just being silly and naive at this point. He deserves to be the favorite in every game he plays. He's that good.
And you guys have comments on the Super Bowl. You guys have thoughts. Let us know. We want to welcome all the Rumble users. Again, if you're on Rumble, you're seeing us for the first time, you're going to see a lot more of us. Because we are part of that, as you see in the background, that Smoke the Spread family, formerly Wake and Rake. Catch them every weeknight, Tuesday through Friday. New show coming up with Ari. We're going to talk about them more later on. But you're absolutely right. I mean, and let's not kid ourselves. The not counting overtime and regulation, San Francisco won this game for 56 minutes of it. I mean, they were in complete control. Kansas City was beating themselves up. They said it at halftime, we are killing ourselves. We got guys fighting on the sidelines. We got coaches fighting with players. We got players fighting with players. We'll get into that as we go on. We're going to run through the numbers. We're going to run through prop numbers that hit. We're going to show you some data and some stats from the Super Bowl that are going to make a lot of sense. But Adam, you said it, perfectly in your comments. It was just stop making Mahomes the underdog. And that was always, if you ask, I don't know, I didn't watch all the media. I try not to watch media because I want to give you our own show. I don't want to regurgitate the media stuff. But, that was the thing. San Francisco's got the better team. San Francisco should win this Super Bowl. We want to see San Francisco win this Super Bowl. Whether it was Purdy get a ring, CMC get a ring, if you're a Shanahan fan and you want to see him get over the hump, whatever. I just don't want to see Kansas City win it. It was San Francisco was the fan favorite. But most of us knew that Kansas City was going to win this game, and it was because of one guy. It was because of Patrick Mahomes. And we'll give Andy Reid some credit as well because he absolutely deserves it. And the supporting cast, it's been the Mahomes show. Mahomes' back has to be absolutely exhausted from carrying this team, and that's really where the tide turned is. And you knew it was going to happen. You knew the chance was going to happen, but Mahomes, I don't know if Mahomes knew it the whole time, if he was trying not to do it, if it wasn't part of the game plan or what, but there's a moment in the fourth quarter where you see the switch go off in Mahomes' head, and he realizes, yet again, he's going to have to do this himself. Our defense has done their job, and the defense well outperformed the offense. San Francisco defense well outperformed Kansas City's defense, and we'll see that when we get in the numbers in a minute as well. But you see the switch. Mahomes knew he had to. We all knew it, that if Kansas City was going to win this game, Mahomes was going to have to be the one to do it. And everything happened and played out exactly how I think people like you and me, fans of the game that have been watching this all season, I think it happened exactly how we thought it was going to happen. Am I wrong, Adam?
Yeah, and it kind of goes into, similar to what I was saying before with giving him too many chances. Look, if you want to beat a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you have to go out there and beat him. You have to put him away. You have to be the one to go win the game. And like I said before, you can't put the ball back in his hands and let your entire season, the Super Bowl, ride on hoping that Mahomes doesn't score a touchdown. That's a losing proposition. The Niners failed to put him away. They could have tried to do it in overtime, at least put the pressure on by scoring the touchdown. All game, the Niners pretty much dominated everywhere but the scoreboard. They let the game stay as a one-possession game all game long. Obviously, that fumble on the punt was absolutely devastating. That kind of turned everything around. Yeah. But for the most part, they let the Chiefs stay within striking distance all game. And like I said, if you want to beat Mahomes, you have to put the dagger in. You have to finish him off. If you give him a chance at the end, he's going to get you.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this. I'm going to bring up the question. I don't want you to answer it yet, but or comment, if you will. San Francisco got Shanahan. That's what happened. In a lot of respects, they got Shanahan. Shanahan had the lead. It happened the last time the Niners played Kansas City. It happened in the Atlanta New England game. This is a running thing with Shanahan, and we will talk more about that. What did you guys think of the Super Bowl? What did you see? Where did you guys make the money? Again, those prop hits that we had, we're going to get into those as well. Those prop hits came courtesy of Smoke the Spread. I want to bring them up. Before I do that, you see here the big game special. We ran almost 4 hours of Super Bowl content over at That Sports Podcast Network. Look it up on YouTube. Lots of good stuff in there that is still relevant to that day. There's chapter markers there. You can find everything you want to find, especially if you want to find some great food. The food segment that we had chef from Bar Rescue on there, and it was... You're going to want to go find that, because the ribs and the wings that he puts out are, you can make that any day. The other thing we talked about, again, Rumble users, welcome to the show. That Damn Sports Network. We are That Sports Podcast Network. They are That Damn Sports Network, and we are all one big company. We are all together. We are all one division. You guys know these guys, formerly the Wake and Rake crew. They are now Smoke the Spread. You're going to want to catch them every weeknight, Tuesday through Friday and Sunday, for all your sports prop betting needs. They hit a ton, and we're going to show you that as well. They hit a ton for the Super Bowl. People made a lot of money if they watched that show and listen to what they said. Adam, did you make any money this Super Bowl?
I did okay. I came out on top. I wouldn't say I made a killing, but I'm in the green and I'll take it.
Absolutely. You could have made a lot more. I'm going to show you that in just a few minutes, but let's get into some of these early stats. We'll get into the game stats. We'll get
1 yard away by Isaiah Pacheco from hitting a nice little same-game parlay. I needed him to have 60 or more. He had 59. So
there you go. I think it was it Debo? It was either Debo or Ayuk was like a half yard short. It was 12.5 was the line at the time that I heard it, and he got 12. No, so I know a lot of people got hit on that. Oh, on the rush yards. That's what it was. Yes, Purdy's rush yards, 12.5.
And then when he took a knee at the end of regulation, that was the -1 rushing yard. So he went from 13 to 12, and his spread was 12.5.
I've lost a couple big money fantasy games like that as well. No, I've definitely lost some games. Had like a 5. I literally had a 5-yard lead, and I think it was either Russell Wilson, or it was in Denver. It wasn't Elway. But anyway, the quarterback was a Monday Night Football game, and he took 3 knees and destroyed my game because I was ahead. 3 knees.
They'll get you.
Damn it. Yeah, they will. Let's get into these first stats. We talk about this every week because, look, if you guys don't know, especially our new Rumble family, if you didn't know, we went through the entire season. We went game by game, team by team. We predicted how it was going to all play out. This is how we did. You talk about the percentages and stuff like that. You talk about Smoke the Spread. Miss Callista went over 47% in the NFL. That is an absolutely unheard of ROI rate. You're going to want to watch Smoke the Spread if you want to make money, as I talked about every weekday night, Tuesday through Friday, and on Sunday. Rumble crowd's already on it. If you're not on Rumble, go find them over there because you will make money if you watch that show. Ari is a beautiful mind, beautiful lady, but a beautiful mind when it comes to this stuff. Absolutely amazing what she did. We didn't do toe shabby. We got over 60% on the predictions. We're going to do it again next year, but I bring it up because it was fun and we want you guys to be a part of it next year. All right, enough on that. Samesies is what I called this one. San Francisco versus Kansas City. We had a lot of things come up the same. We see the first ones that I'm going to give you right here. First downs, 23 for San Francisco, 24 for Kansas City. You see the first down pass rate, 15 and 15 per side. We had yards per play, 5.4 and 5.8. Time of possession, 38, 31, 36, 26. And, of course, our rushing attempts at 31 and 30. We've got more on that. We've got drives at 13 and 13. Look, the point being here is that this game, these guys, even when it came down to the score, both 1-on-1 on fourth downs. The yards per pass, very close. Penalties, exactly the same, a little different in yardage. It was a pretty clean game overall, with only 6 penalties, and you just see, we're going to get into the numbers that matter as the show progresses here in just a few minutes, but Adam, as you see these stats and you see these numbers, and you see just honestly how close it was, and obviously it went to overtime, but, talk to me about what you see here.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reflects, what the score was most of the game. It was a one-possession game most of the way. The 49ers felt to be in control for most of the game, but they failed to really, put that dagger in there and really pull away and really get things rolling. And I think, personally for me, a lot of that had to do with there was a big stretch in the third quarter, first half of the fourth quarter. In that second half, there was a long stretch where they got away from McCaffrey. They went like 6 passes in a row on 2 3-and-outs. I think that was either late in the third or in the fourth quarter. They got away from McCaffrey, and that's when things started to unravel offensively. And then when they went back to him late in the game, he started ripping off 6 to 8 yards a clip again. Had they stuck with that the whole time, we might be talking about a different game right now.
Absolutely, 100%. We'll talk about the numbers, but when I'm running through these stats and I'm pulling everything in, I could not believe just, how close some of this stuff was, especially when you talk about like they each had 13 drives. They, and we'll talk about these stats more, but, almost the same number of field goals, almost the same number of punts. It's really crazy how close the Super Bowl was. I loved everything about it. It was fantastic. One of the better, I wouldn't call it, would you call it the best Super Bowl, Adam? I don't think it was the best Super Bowl, but it was maybe top 5 at this point because we're still on the high. But top 5 Super Bowls, it was ugly for Kansas City, though.
No, I mean, I would not say it was the best Super Bowl, probably not even the top 5, because for me, most of the game was relatively boring. It wasn't exactly an action-packed game start to finish. Now, the fourth quarter, like the end of the fourth quarter and overtime, very exciting. Great ending to the game. That's when, the adrenaline started going and it got real exciting towards the end. But let's not forget that most of that game was very dry.
It was. I mean, you can make that argument that it wasn't that fun to watch until the end, but hopefully you stuck around till the end because, man, did it get good from there. Let's see. Let's go ahead and keep the stat train rolling. We see McCaffrey, Purdy, first playoff game below 90%. The guy did not go below 90%, and look, his 89.3, so we can make a big to-do about nothing here, but there you go, 89.3. It was below the 90%. Second highest attempts and completions of the entire season, however, the entire season. So, it's not like Purdy didn't do enough in this game. CMC, a lot of people said we needed to see more CMC. Why did Shanahan get away from the run? You got the number 1 rusher in the NFL. Look, he had the most receptions in a game all season. He tied for the most carries in a game all season. He had the most run, reception, and all-purpose yards of anyone else in the Super Bowl. And yes, it was the 7th lowest run total, so credit Kansas City's defense for slowing him down. But don't think that Shanahan didn't do everything he could to put his playmaker in the game, including the trick play with Juwan Jennings. What did you think of the usage there? Again, a lot of people were mad at it at first, but you see these numbers, and look, they did everything they could. Kansas City defense did their job.
I still think they should have cranked it up further. It was working. When they were going to McCaffrey, the whole offense was working. It was moving. It was all good. Look, this is the Super Bowl. What are you limiting? Sure, he tied for his most carries in the game with 22. The way he was running, he probably should have had 30. And had he had 25 to 30 carries, the Niners may have won that game. Because, again, they got a little bit too pass-happy for a little bit of a stretch. And I think that ultimately cost them. Because if they just score once on either of those 2 drives that I'm talking about, They very
Yeah.
well may have won those games, and they died by going with 6 passes in a row instead of handing it off to the best offensive player in the league.
They absolutely did. I don't know. I think it was just I'm a defensive wins championships guy, so I look at the numbers. I see that they utilized them. We talked about how they spread the ball around. We're going to see those numbers in just a second in this next few slides here. But I think they utilized them. I get what you're saying, and it was working. I guess, I don't know. It's kind of like the Dan Campbell thing. Not going for it on fourth down, not taking the field goal, going for it on fourth down, not taking the field goal. If it works, then you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're not. He didn't do it in this case. Shanahan did not keep working CMC, and so he's going to get some criticism. But again, the guy had the most carries, the most receptions.
Learned from like the Falcons fiasco, right? It was the same type of thing when he was calling the plays for the Falcons. He got away from a running game that was working so well when he had a lead on the scoreboard, and he gave Brady a chance to beat him. Here he gave Mahomes a chance to beat him.
That's a fair comment. That is a fair comment. You get off the game plan, and the other team comes back on you. It's, again, classic Shanahan move, if you really think about it. Let's get into the receivers. Look, second player in Super Bowl history, both a pass and receiving touchdown. This is a fun one. I'm going to give you a chance to think on it. I don't want you to Google it, Adam, but I want to know who the other guy is. Let me run through these, and I'm going to ask you who the other guy is. Don't Google it. Sixth non-QB in Super Bowl. Okay, 6 QB in non-quarterback history to throw a touchdown. NFL writer Adam Hulse, I believe he knows. First ever number 15 to throw a touchdown. So you get into next-gen stats. Credit next-gen stats. Had a 4% chance to catch that touchdown versus Snead on the initial catch, and then he takes it in after Snead makes the play on the ball. And it was only Snead's second touchdown given up all season. He didn't give up any in the regular season. He gave up 2 in the playoffs. This was one of them, a pretty big one. Nice day for Juwan Jennings. Again, the guys over at Smoke the Spread for our Rumble family over there at That Damn Sports Network, they called it. They said Jennings was going to have a nice, hit some props, make some couple big plays, and there you go. Number one, everybody was surprised to see the play. I thought it was a great play. I thought it came at a great time. And then you have the numbers here in front of you. Before you answer those 2 questions, who was the other player, Adam?
It was the Philly special, right? It was Nick Foles?
It was, in fact, Nick Foles and the Philly special. You're absolutely right. That is who it was. So, again, here's the stats. You saw the play. Jennings absolutely instrumental in this game, and I'll give you the other side of it. Deebo Samuel was expected to be more instrumental, not quite as instrumental. All right, Adam, I'll let you go.
Look, I mean, there was a point in that game with the way Jennings was playing that if the Niners won the game, he was in consideration to be the MVP of the Super Bowl with the receiving touchdown, with the throwing touchdown. I mean, the way the rest of the game played out, he probably wouldn't have got it. But again, there was at one point in the game where I was like, man, imagine that if the Niners win and Juwan Jennings is the Super Bowl MVP. Nobody really would have saw that one coming.
Absolutely crazy. I just got a text message here. So breaking news, but it's on a production level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up one more time. That Damn Sports Network. If you are watching us on Rumble, welcome. We are glad to be part of That Damn Sports Network as That Sports Podcast Network. Again, one big happy family. Check these guys out every weeknight. These guys have all the betting info that you guys are going to need. We're going to show just how hard they hit. We're going to actually hop off the Rumble channel at this time. If you want to see more of this show, if you want to see how it all plays out, see more of the stats, head over to either That Sports Podcast Network, or you can find us at Armchair Athletics, That EFIN Morning After Show. We're all over the place. That Sports Podcast Network right there. You can catch the rest of this show. You can catch up with it later if you want as well. We're going to get into the props that hit. We're going to give you guys some more data. Again, Rumble family, thank you for welcoming us. We are glad to be here. And don't forget to catch them as Wake and Rake. They are now Smoke the Spread, and they got you paid for Super Bowl. So Rumble, we bid you fond farewell for this one. We will see you guys later, and come over to the YouTube, Facebook side of the house to catch the rest of the show and give us your comments. Let us know how it was. We will see you later, Rumble family. For everybody else, the show moves on. Let's see. So we have, let's see, where were we? We were in the Super Bowl numbers for the receivers, and you kind of you thought Debo was going to be more involved, didn't you? I mean, you just really thought Debo. The big stat that jumps out here: second most targets for the entire season, and he went 3 for 11. He only caught 3 of them, and he only had 2 drops in the previous 4 games before that. So again, is this Shanahan's fault for getting off it? He threw the ball to him 11 times, or is this a credit to the Kansas City defense?
I'd say it's more a credit to the Kansas City defense. It's something we talked about a lot on this show from week to week, how good they are against wide receivers. And, though Debo is a very, creative and different type of wide receiver than anybody else, he does still generally play on the outside of the formation, which has been the Chiefs' ultimate strength in pass coverage. Where they've been beaten at times, and even not so much, is more so with some guys in the slot. But again, just in general, the Chiefs have been very good against wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, they have, and they were good this game. Both defenses showed up. I mean, hands down, both defenses showed up. And we'll get into this numbers as we always do. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. This is, a combination. This is Mahomes wins championships with the help of his defense. And you can say vice versa if you want. But let's keep it rolling. We saw this. Afterwards, of course, when everybody's happy and because we just won the Super Bowl, Kelsey jokingly said, I was just telling him how much I loved him. Reed said that he was letting him know, hey, when I'm on the field, I'll get in the end zone. It's Super Bowl. And Reed absolutely acknowledges that it was Super Bowl emotions. He knows how passionate Kelsey is. I don't think this can happen. But it did happen, and so what are you going to do? You can't change it. You just won the Super Bowl. There's no, maybe they have a backroom conversation, but really, it's probably something that Andy's probably kind of, I don't want to say used to, but he knows how passionate this guy gets, and this is the Super Bowl. This is the biggest moment. So, Reed said he took me by surprise, which I'm sure he did, but I also kind of applaud Reed for letting it go. Like, it's a Super Bowl. I get it. You want the ball. Like, we don't need to do all that. But, he didn't, make a big thing of it, at least outwardly.
No, yeah, and, the way both of them handle it, none of it surprises me. Kelsey doing it doesn't necessarily surprise me either. We know he's a passionate, animated type of guy. Look, I mean, in Super Bowls, in big games, this does happen a lot with players, and it's probably being even more a bigger deal about because it's Travis Kelce and he's been the center of the spotlight, for so long. Andy handled it with the media exactly how I thought he would. What he said in the locker room, whatever conversation they had at halftime or whatever, that's their business. But I'm not worried about any kind of friction between Andy Reid and Travis Kelce.
I really bring it up not for the sorry about that cursor there. I really bring it up not because it happened, but because it was kind of a thing throughout a lot of the game. And Kansas City had said at halftime, you heard about the speeches coming out that they were killing themselves and everyone was getting frustrated. I don't know if you saw the exchange between Mahomes and Rice. Rice was wide open on a touchdown pass, that fade route, that underneath fade route to Kelsey late in the game. Rashee Rice was absolutely wide open. Go back and check the tape. There is video on it. It didn't look good, so I didn't put it up here, but he is wide open in the middle. And Rice came over and said something to Mahomes, and as you watch the clip further, Mahomes 100% let him know I'm the freaking quarterback and laid back into him. And to Rice's credit, he took it. He acknowledged it and said, yep, you're right, all right. And he just kind of, he was a man about it. But we talk about the friction, of course, after the game. Everybody's good, and I really like this slide. Kelsey said that Reed is the greatest coach this game has ever seen. I owe my entire career to that guy. He actually previously in that quote said that he's the greatest leader of men he's ever seen. And again, that's easy to say on the Super Bowl line. I think Kelsey genuinely feels it, but you go from the angst, the frustration, the passions, the tempers overflowing, and at some point even, I mean, this fight here happened on that fade route in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is the end of the game when you thought they were going to score, and they're still fighting within each other to the point that the offense and the defensive captains both had to pull their respective sides together and say, hey, look, we got to pull it together. And Mahomes is finally the beacon of light, as he has been all season. But I thought that the inner turmoil, the inner fighting and all that stuff, I thought it was absolutely, it was just painfully obvious throughout the entire game that these guys just were not gelling like they had been all season.
No, and like they were clearly frustrated. And I agree, it kind of came to a head of what it's all been all year with their struggling offense. But again, just like it's been all year too, their defense stepped up. They gave Mahomes a chance in the second half, and he got the job done.
100%. What is next? Yeah, let's talk about Mahomes. I put in the slide. I put in the description of the show, did Mahomes deserve the MVP? And I 100% own that was just supposed to kind of get a little reaction out of people. There's really no question that Mahomes deserved the MVP of this Super Bowl. If San Francisco had won it, Mahomes should have got the MVP. This guy just took everything on his back. Most attempts and completions for the entire season. He brought it for the Super Bowl. Second most passing yards all season with 333. And yeah, he had some extra time in the overtime to do it, but he faced zone coverage on almost 70% of the dropbacks. We'll talk about that more in the defense, but we want to talk about it now because personally, I don't think you go zone on Mahomes. I think that's a bad idea, but they did get pressure, and we'll talk about that too. He was the lead rusher for the team, again, taking the team on his shoulders. We saw a big run in the fourth to put that over, but he led the team by 7 yards, 9 for 66. Pacheco had 18, as you mentioned, for 59. Second most rush yards of any player in the entire game. Second most rush attempts all season. And most rushing yards all season with 56. And I would have thought that would have been higher. I would have thought Mahomes had more than 56 all season. But there it is. I mean, Mahomes brought it for the Super Bowl. He gave his best performance of the entire season. There's the numbers to back it up. Clearly, Mahomes deserved it. I don't think it was ever in question if Kansas City won this game that he was going to get it. What did you think of the way Mahomes just throws him up on his shoulders to get this win?
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does, right? And to me, like, he kind of had to be the MVP because who else would have won it? You know what I mean? Like, Mahomes, I'm not saying that he had a bad game. A lot of the game, he didn't do a whole lot. And then at the end, those two great drives at the end, he did go win the game, which is ultimately why he won the MVP. But again, like, nobody else on the team really did anything to be deserving of the MVP. Because, when you look back to the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, I felt like Damian Williams kind of deserved to be the MVP of that game. He had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns when he was the running back of the Chiefs, and they gave it to Mahomes anyway. They're usually going to favor the quarterbacks. We all know that. But in this Super Bowl, like, who are you making the case for if it's not Mahomes?
That's the thing.
There's nobody.
There isn't, and as you see these stats roll out for Kansas City, you're absolutely right.
MVP. Like, if someone wants to make the case that Mahomes shouldn't have been the MVP, well, then who should have been? Like,
I don't think anybody's going to make that case this year. It's fun to add some controversy, but you're absolutely right. Like, there's no way to make that case this year. You can do that for previous years. You can do it on other stuff. Can't do it for this one. This one, and again, there's the numbers to prove it. He 100%. Was the MVP of this game with the win. On the other side, let's save that one. Well, no, let's just get into it. This is more of a Pulse Hulse question, but we'll just ask it now. It's our final show. We can go off script. We can do what we want. Had San Francisco won this game, where would you have seen the MVP going? Without knowing the final play, I suppose. But
probably McCaffrey. Though I did say that I felt like they got away from him and that they should have, went to him a little bit more. When you do look at what he did in that game, I mean, he was more important to that game than Purdy was, in my opinion. And again, at one point, I thought it might have been Juwan Jennings, but when it was all said and done, I think it probably would have went to McCaffrey. But
again, most rushing yards in the game, most receiving yards in the game, most all-purpose yards in the game, most carries in the game. He was number one in every, running back and receiver category for the entire game. That's his MVP to me. So you're absolutely right. You can make cases for defensive players too. It never goes that way, and we'll see that on the when we talk about the defensive numbers in just a couple minutes. I'm going to save that conversation for that slide and why I think you can make that case. Travis Kelce finally turned it on. Absolutely phenomenal. 1 reception in the first half, and this is where the coaching comes in. If you're going to change the game plan, Shanahan, changed his a little bit for the second half. Reed clearly changed his for the second half. 1 reception, gets 8 in the second half. Number 1 in receptions and yards in the Super Bowl. He had the most receptions and the most yards overall. And I know I just said McCaffrey had it. He was actually number 2 for reception and yards. But, Kelce, playoff Kelce, this is what you need. And Kansas City got exactly what they needed to win this game, and they got it exactly how we thought it was going to happen. One fun stat, thank you again, Next Gen Stats. Kelce on the fourth quarter catch that set up the field goal, the tying field goal, the one where he ran out of bounds and the San Francisco player got hurt because Kelce laid the wood on. Kelce reached 19.68 miles per hour. All right, that's the fastest he's ever run in his entire NFL career. He wanted that end zone. He wanted to get downfield. He was at least going to make sure they got that field goal. That guy was on a mission, and you could tell by the way he was fired up. So fired up, in fact, that he ran the fastest he has ever run in his entire NFL life. And the other stat, because we talked about this in the Super Bowl pre-show, 8 of his 9 receptions were under 10 air yards. 59 of his 77 yards on those 8 passes were yards after the catch. Again, man on a mission, and this is how he lives. This is how Kansas City lives. We talked about in the pre-show how Mahomes throws ahead of the sticks and lets his receivers do the work. Kelce does more work than anybody, and there you go. And he did it in the Super Bowl to get this win. Look, Kelce may have been, absent due to game plan or coverage or whatever you want to say in the first half, but as it has been all season, you have to wonder if Mahomes could do what he does without this guy on the field next to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to wonder it, but, we wondered if he could do what he does without Tyreek Hill, right? And all he's done since they traded Tyreek Hill is won 2 consecutive Super Bowls. So again, the chemistry between Kelce and Mahomes is unmatched. It's unbelievable what those two do as a tandem. I Absolutely. Have no idea what it would look like if Kelce wasn't there. But I would not go as far to say that we wouldn't see the same Mahomes without Kelce. I love that final play that you were talking about. Like the setting the new record for his fastest run, lowering his shoulder and completely laying that defender out. It ties right in with him blowing up on Reed on the sideline, right? Like, say what you want about Travis Kelce. You can love him, you can hate him. A lot of people don't like his personality and off the field stuff and whatever. But one thing you can't take away from the guy is he is a gamer. This dude wants to win, and that absolutely shows it right there. When he caught that pass, he was never thinking field goal. He was never thinking get out of bounds, field position, any of that. He said, I'm going to get in that damn end zone. And he didn't quite get there, but it wasn't for a lack of effort.
No, and I've said that for a long time because we've had personalities like Ocho Cinco. We've had personalities like Terrell Owens and stuff like that. And people, get on them for their off-the-field antics, on-the-field antics, how much, Randy Moss as well. But Terrell Owens, one of the biggest shit talkers in the entire game that the game has ever seen. People got it. But look, if you back it up, you get a lot more leeway to do stuff like Kelce did, running into the coach, getting fired up, yelling at people, all that frustration, because look, he went out there and he backed it up. He told Reed in the first one, put me out there and we will score, they damn near did it. But when he was out there in that second half, they came back to life. They forced this overtime and they win this game. And I promise you, and you know it as much as anybody, and that was part of the game plan. That's a huge part of the play. When they were down on that goal line, that final touchdown to win the game, that defense was looking at Kelce, and they talked about it when they broke the play down. When McCole Hardman comes in, the DB automatically switches to someone else. And so they timed the snap and the switch back perfectly. The DB didn't have time to react because he's watching to see, okay, who's coming across? Is Kelsey going to cover? You know, the other side is watching Kelsey. Everybody was watching Kelsey on that one. They were watching two people on that play. They were watching Kelsey. They were watching Mahomes, because is Mahomes going to run it in? Are they going to go the same way? Is Kelsey going to block for Mahomes? I mean, that's who you're looking at. You put the ball in the playmaker's hands, and you know, you talk about Hardman making the catch. That's not something anybody expected. Not from San Francisco's DB level, because I know those guys are trained to cover everybody, but nobody at home thought that Hardman was going to catch that ball. Nobody thought anybody was going to make that score besides Kelsey and Mahomes. Outside odds on Pacheco. I don't know how you felt about it.
No, I mean, I do agree with you. And, the 49ers played it right. They had to cover Kelsey and they had to cover Mahomes, because if they didn't, that's where it was going. But believe me, if that was a fourth down play, like when they went for it on fourth down earlier in the drive, that ball would not be going to McCole Hardman. You could double team Kelsey. You can spy Mahomes. One of those two guys is going to determine the season when the game's on the line. The reason I think Mahomes was willing to go to Hardman is because that was a first down play.
It absolutely was, and it was a perfect play. It was well drawn up, and the timing was absolutely perfect. If Hardman had to come in any further, if the snap happens, too soon before Hardman can make the snap, or if Hardman cuts back too soon is really the big thing. If Hardman had cut back just a half a second sooner, that DB would have seen the cut and he would have followed him. And we're going to get into that. Actually, I think it's in the next one, and I hope that it is. We'll go here first. We're going to talk about all the receivers. Second most receptions and yards all season. 52-yard completion was 58 air yards. Mahomes' third longest pass ever in his entire career was that 58-yard pass. Third most reception yards of the season. Tied his total receptions in the game. Third most yards of separation in the air. I put that on Scantling. It's actually supposed to be over on Hardman. But the third most yards of separation, thank you, Next Gen Stats. Hardman had, in all Super Bowl scores of the NG era, Next Gen Stats era, which is from 2016 now. So since 2016, only two other people have had more separation going into the end zone than Hardman had on that one. So that's what that stat means, to break it down. The fun part is the other two people, Mahomes was involved there too. And then, of course, the other, Rashid Rice, I don't know, lowest yard since week 5. They didn't need it, I guess. I'm not going to say that, because they had to take this game to overtime. Maybe Rice should have been more involved. Again, credit the San Francisco defense for taking Rice out of this game. But there's your receiver stats. I really think that the air yards for Hardman's pass and that separation, those next-gen stats, are really kind of cool. But it's how everybody here, they're in the upper tier of their most yards or their most completions or whatever it is for the Super Bowl. Again, Kansas City brought it, and San Francisco did a great job of shutting it down for 56 minutes of the game. But the overtime plus the few minutes that Kansas City did have it going, that's all Kansas City needs when you got Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and it just reiterates again, and it's what we've seen kind of from Mahomes since getting rid of Tyreek Hill, that when you have a guy as good as Mahomes, the receivers really don't even matter all that much. And that's why Andy and the Chiefs, they're just getting some speedy guys to run deep routes, to open up the field. And for the most part, the game is Mahomes and Kelsey. And I know Rice had a very good season. And, like you said, the Niners took him away for a lot of that game and pretty much all of that game. But, in the end, it doesn't matter. You have Mahomes. Who the receivers are,
it
doesn't seem to make that much of a difference.
Absolutely. And you can make the argument. We talked about Tyreek Hill. Can Tyreek Hill do it without Mahomes? Can Mahomes do it without? Clearly, both of those guys are talented. They both did just fine. I think Kelsey's the same way. You guys have the Brady Belichick argument, who made who, stuff like that. I think there's a situation where Kelsey is this good no matter where he goes, and Hill is that good no matter, Mahomes is that good no matter where he goes. These receivers, they weren't really that good at all this season. They just did what they had to do. Again, MVS had that huge catch, tied his most total receptions in a game this season with 3. That's the most passes he caught in a game this year was 3. He did it again in the Super Bowl. So, again, third most reception yards of the season at 54. So, these guys did not have big years, but they had Patrick Mahomes, and there you go. Defense wins.
He had more drops than he did catches, right?
100%. Oh, yeah. Way more. Defense wins championships. This is the story of the game, Adam. I told you, and you already knew this, but offense wins games. Patrick wins games, but defense wins championships. These guys did their job. San Francisco doesn't have anything to hang their head about. Purdy shouldn't feel that bad. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, like he's done his entire career. 255, no interceptions. I think he took like 3 sacks. We'll see that in a second. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, protected the ball, got it downfield, moved it around, stuck to the game plan. The defense absolutely did what they were supposed to do. San Francisco forced a run success rate of only 33%. That's absolutely ridiculous. Bosa's 10 pressures on 48 rushes is the third most in postseason history. He had pressures on 21% of his plays. My Lord. McDuffie's block in the fourth quarter, that took him to 16. That was +5 more than any DB this season. The entire season. You got L'Jarius Sneed on the other side, who didn't allow a single touchdown the entire season. And McDuffie had the most unblocked pressures in regulation of any DB in the entire NFL. Say what you want. San Francisco's defense is elite. They had holes. They still brought it on for the Super Bowl. You got Patrick Mahomes over there. I keep saying it.
Yeah, and one guy that I'll point out too that I've been very down on, who I think has been terrible since they traded for him, who actually stepped up and had a really good game, was Chase Young.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they've been saying it, the entire. We need Chase to show up. We need Chase to show up. Chase has got to show up.
He's done nothing since he got to the team. Absolutely nothing since he got to the team. He's been an absolute waste, but he definitely showed up for the Super Bowl. Had a very solid game. Made an impact on a lot of plays. Because as we know with pass rushers too, it's not just what it says on the stat sheet. They affect games that aren't statistically measured in certain things that they can do. And he felt like he was a big part of their defensive success that game.
No, he kept that end sealed. He had a tackle for loss. He had a sack. And so he had 1/3 of the sacks. He had over 33% of their sacks. Chase Young did, again, what he was asked to do and showed up for this one to help everybody out. It just happened not to be enough with Mahomes on the other side. Kansas City, they blitzed on 51% of their passes. There's a quote out there that they said straight up they just wanted Purdy to have to throw the ball. They wanted Purdy to throw the ball. They wanted to be in Purdy's hands because they knew their strength was their defensive backfield, and they knew that those guys were hard to beat. And so they wanted to make Purdy throw. They would keep it away from CMC. That's the plan. Keep it the hell out of his hands. 9 unblocked pressures, which was the highest of the season. Kansas City brought it as well. And this is what happens. This is why I say defense wins championships right here. San Francisco, they forced 5 punts. They forced 4 field goals. They forced 5 fumbles. They recovered 2 of them, but they forced 5 of them. 53 solo tackles, 3 sacks, an interception, 6 tackles for loss. Put that in perspective. Kansas City, yes, 5 punts. 3 field goals. They only forced 2 fumbles they just recovered their 2. But 36 solo tackles, 1 sack, 4 tackles for loss. You see San Francisco's defense outperformed Kansas City's, not by much. And again, it wasn't enough with Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the ball. But don't take anything away from San Francisco, especially not from their defense, who a lot of people will say, and we'll talk about this when we get into the Pro Bowl, the awards talk a little bit. In my opinion, and this isn't fan of, Bosa absolutely should have won that award. Nothing against Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett had a fantastic season. We'll get into that. Let me not get off track. Let me stay here in the Super Bowl. But Bosa came. Both these defenses showed up, and San Francisco actually did better.
Yeah, they sure did. And that kind of goes in, to what I was saying before, too, with as good as they played, as much as they shut down Patrick Mahomes, as much as they had the ball earlier in that game, all they failed to do was put them away.
Yep.
One more touchdown on the board, and we might be talking about how the Niners won the championship this year, and Mahomes is 2-2 in Super Bowls. They couldn't get that one more score. The defense did everything that they could. I don't blame them at all for giving up that touchdown drive at the end. They did nothing wrong in this game. Again, the Niners just couldn't put the dagger in.
Absolutely. I mean, San Francisco did everybody did their job on San Francisco except for one play. And it wasn't even so much they didn't do their job. It's just a great play, and obviously, it was more than one play. I'm adding a little bit to it, but San Francisco they did everything they could on the other side of the ball. I won't say what happened because you already know. Here's the big one. Yards allowed 455. Kansas City only allowed 382. You see the pass versus rush ratio there, and that's, numbers-wise, that's what it comes down to right there. There's your who won, who lost, because San Francisco absolutely dominated on defense. Kansas City, they were absolutely outstanding. It's kind of like, I compare this to the field goal situation. Moody comes out, breaks the record for the field goal. Bucker says, hold my beer, and comes out and breaks it again in the same game. Kansas City, absolutely elite defensive performance. San Francisco one-upped them, but Kansas City's okay with it because they end up with the Super Bowl. Again, we are That Sports Podcast Network, teamed up with That Damn Sportscast Network, all one big happy family. Go check out the Super Bowl show. A lot of good information there. Adam, it's all these stats, all these numbers, all these things. Amazing Super Bowl. Mahomes still comes out on top, but he waits to the end. You talked about it. We're not going to go so far as to call the thing a snooze fest, but it wasn't the most exciting game we've ever seen until the last couple of minutes of regulation on. Give me some final thoughts on the Super Bowl.
Well, we've learned that the Chiefs can win now in different ways, right? And I mean season to season. We've seen the high-flying offense, the Chiefs. This year was not that at all. And we talked at length a lot about how their offense struggled a lot this season. They had a different formula this year. They played defense, they kept games close, and they gave the best player in the league a chance to win them at the end. This was a theme during the season. We talked about how their defense shut down opposing teams in second halves and the shutouts that they were pitching in second halves. And that crazy stat that was going around that in 20 games, 18 of them went under in the second half. And that's just all the testament that, look, if we keep it close enough and give Mahomes a chance, we're going to trust that he's going to get it done every time. And he surely gets it done enough to win a second Super Bowl in a row. And next year, he has the opportunity to be the first quarterback ever to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. It's never happened before. Not even Tom Brady did it. Joe Montana didn't do it. Mahomes, he can be the first of something for Super Bowl history. So we'll see how that plays out next year.
Absolutely. Most watched Super Bowl in NFL history, most streamed Super Bowl across the Paramount Network, most expensive Super Bowl, and most shots of Taylor Swift in any Super Bowl ever. It's done. It's over. We still ride the high for a couple more days as we go into this offseason and we look towards the draft, and that's what we'll be looking at. Before we get there and start talking about that, let's do the Pulse with Hulse, my favorite part of the show. Adam, 3 NFL questions for you about the NFL, where we're sitting, where we're going. This wasn't on the list until today, but the Cowboys are hiring Mike Zimmer as their DC. How do you feel about that as a Cowboys fan? And then we talked about a little bit at length the Dan Quinn hire and things like that. This coaching carousel, I think Mike Zimmer going over there for the Cowboys, you being a Cowboys fan, I think it's something you should get a chance to speak on.
I'm okay with it. It feels like one of the safest options that they went with. It's a guy familiar with the organization. He was there for a long time before he became a head coach. He has head coaching experience. He's been out of football a little bit, I think just a year or two or whatever it's been. But again, of all the options that were out there, this felt like the safest high floor type of option for the Cowboys because they already know what they're getting. The Joneses already know that they can work with them. There's a lot of familiarity there. He obviously has a lot of success. He's a great defensive coordinator. You know, like this wasn't just like a pick the guy we know kind of thing. He does have a great resume to go along with it. So I was expecting a splash hire by Jerry Jones because he didn't make the move with the head coach like I thought he would. So I thought he would maybe do something bolder with the defensive coordinator. But to me, this just re-solidifies that, look, like whether it's the right decision or wrong decision, Jerry Jones believes in this team as it's built right now. He doesn't want to make any major changes or make any huge splashes to the coaching or to the, the surrounding support with it because he still believes they are good enough as currently constructed to win a Super Bowl. If he didn't feel that way is when you'd be seeing him making the splash moves. Because he's not, he does believe it this time. It's not just lip service.
I'm 100% on board. Like I said, I just wanted you to get a chance to talk about it because it is your team. Let's talk about the free agent market. So we'll start with San Francisco. San Francisco, they've got a great team. They're going to make a run back. Most of the talent is coming. Chase Young is going to be a free agent. Jawan Jennings is going to be a free agent. Ray McLeod's going to be a free agent. Werner, there's not huge names. I mean, those are pretty big names, but I don't know if they're necessarily integral pieces that they absolutely have to have. Honestly, the media is going to make a big deal out of the free agent market in San Francisco, especially the fact that they want to make a run. But do you see any issues in free agency or trades coming up or anybody going anywhere in San Francisco that might really affect their chances next year? I mean, to me, the obvious answer is no, but that's why I'm asking NFL writer Adam Hulse.
No, I think for the most part, the Niners are going to kind of run it back next year. Chase Young, I don't see him coming back unless he's willing to take a pretty significant veteran type of discount to stay with the team. If he likes it there, he just didn't do enough since the trade to really earn himself, any kind of command, when it comes to a contract. So that might be more determined on what he's looking for. But either way, that the 49ers, they breed pass rushers over there. They still have Hargrave and Armstead in the middle. Like without Chase, they didn't need Chase Young. That was kind of like a luxury trade that could have been a ridiculous move if Chase Young played up to his potential. He didn't quite do that. But as for the rest of the list of their pending free agents, not a big deal. I don't think they're going to make any kind of crazy trade either. I think for the most part, the Niners are going to run it back, and they should. I mean, on paper, I said it before, they're probably the best team in the NFL.
Well, I mean, and the thing is like, that's how it always is. It's right now, Kansas City and San Francisco will be the favorites to make it back, et cetera, et cetera. But, and I guess that's kind of my point with, at least with San Francisco. We'll get into the Kansas City ones next. But at least with San Francisco there's really no reason to think that they shouldn't be back in the NFC Championship game at the lowest, at the worst season that they have, because they're not losing anything. And
when you look at their main competition in the Cowboys, who disappoint every year in the playoffs, and the Eagles, who knows what's going on with the Eagles? They spiraled at the end of last year. And look, I mean, the 49ers, they did enough to win that Super Bowl, right? They played well enough to win that Super Bowl. They just got Mahomes, against pretty much most other quarterbacks, maybe any other quarterback in the NFL. They probably could have won that game. It wasn't for lack of not being good enough or not playing well enough. It's just a few things here and there are really the difference in this one, and just the fact that Mahomes wears a Chiefs jersey. But the Niners should run it back. They shouldn't be looking to make any kind of big changes because they're good enough to do it again next year.
Before I get into the Kansas City one, I don't want to make too much drama out of it, but I guess we're kind of supposed to make too much drama. Should Shanahan be worried? I mean, this is the third lead he's blown. It's not the first time. And he's a genius. He's, again, another fantastic football mind who, and the question really comes down to who are you going to get that's better. But how long is San Francisco fans going to, keep dealing with it? getting there but not winning because we get off the game plan, because we blow a lead. I mean, this is just, you see it across all the socials. I have friends that are Niners fans. They all say the same thing. It's just Kyle being Kyle. How long is he safe as long as he keeps getting there?
He's probably safe for a while because of all the success he's had minus winning the Super Bowl. I do know that there are some 49er fans that are definitely turning on Kyle Shanahan. It kind of seems maybe split down the middle at this point of, the hardcore Shanahan supporters and the guys who say the things like you say, like, oh, same old Shanahan, he's going to blow a lead late and, that kind of stuff. But let's remember, too, the head coach he was just facing off against, right? Andy Reid, who we all consider a legend, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. Let's not forget that before he had Mahomes, he didn't win a damn thing either. He made it to one Super Bowl. He lost that Super Bowl. And Andy Reid's narrative was not too dissimilar to Shanahan's in that he's going to have a great team every year, but he can't win the big one. That's what everybody said about Andy Reid. Now he has Mahomes, and he's rattled off 3 of them, and how quickly we forget that that's who Andy Reid was. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Andy Reid. I love Andy Reid. I agree. I think he's one of the great coaches in the history of this game. But had he never got Patrick Mahomes, this might not be the conversation we ever have about Andy Reid. If he stuck with Alex Smith and didn't draft Mahomes, you think he'd be rattling off 3 Super Bowls and being talked about as, a top 5 or 10 coach in NFL history? Probably not. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
how that circles back to Shanahan is that's your narrative until it's not. And me as a Cowboys fan, as a Dak Prescott fan, it's the same kind of thing, right? That's the identity until it's not. Like, it doesn't have to be forever. Shanahan can go out there next year, win a Super Bowl, and the conversation's different. He has the team. He has the youth. He has everything built that I don't think anybody would be surprised if the Niners win the next 2 Super Bowls. That wouldn't shock anybody. And then all of a sudden, the Shanahan conversation flips in the same way that the Andy Reid one did. And that this offensive genius, offensive mind, every team he's been with is always good. Now he's got the rings to go with it. And again, he has the opportunities. He's just got to get it done.
Absolutely. So let's get into the Kansas City side of it. Now, Kansas City doesn't have it quite as easy as San Francisco does. Kansas City, I mean, you can argue some of these, again, not huge deals, especially with what Mahomes can do. But you talk about McCole Hardman, Jerick McKinnon, CEH. These guys are all going to be free agents. The one that really jumps out is L'Jarius Sneed. Thompson's on their Tranquil's on there, but L'Jarius Sneed is obviously going to be the number one guy that they're going to need to sign on this one. Kansas City's free agency. How do you feel about it? Did I lose you? Oh, there we go.
There's Chris Jones. He's pending free agency.
Well, that's true because they only signed him to that one year deal just to get him back on the team. You're absolutely right. And then is Kelsey going to retire, which he won't, but everybody's going to be talking Will Kelsey.
Chris Jones is that Chris Jones is going to get his money. Like, I'm sure he'd like to stay with the Chiefs and keep winning Super Bowls, but he is not the guy who's taking a hometown discount. We have definitely learned that about Chris Jones. He held out earlier this season. That's like the second or third time he's held out for more money before. He's been a tough negotiator with the Chiefs. He has pressed them for money at every step of the way. Chris Jones is going to get paid, whether it's in Kansas City or somewhere else. He's not just staying to win Super Bowls. You better pay him, too, if you want to keep him. And he's obviously a massive piece to what they do defensively. L'Jarius Sneed, another one. Top cornerbacks make a lot of money. And he had the season that's going to demand the contract of a top cornerback. That's an expensive proposition. I think that they should keep him. McDuffie's been phenomenal as well, so maybe they'll see it as like a, McDuffie will move up kind of into Sneed's role, and then we'll look to replace our CB2 because McDuffie's good enough to be a leading corner. So that's an interesting little storyline that I'm interested to see what the Chiefs do. But I referenced it before. We've seen that the Chiefs can kind of win defensively or win offensively. So I'm more curious to see what's their game plan next year. Are they going to stick with this defensive formula like they did this year? Or are they going to let some guys like Chris Jones walk and L'Jarius Sneed walk and free up some money for maybe like a T. Higgins or a Mike Evans or something like that and go back offense and let's light up the scoreboard again. So I'm interested to see what their philosophy is.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, the offseason is always interesting, and we'll obviously be doing a lot of shows on that. We'll be talking a lot about that, working up to the draft. I'll be doing a live show with the injured list, Dr. Brian, for the draft on Thursday. It's this is now the talk. Starting next week after the free agent market. I think the free agent market is already a subject, and then the draft will gradually work its way in over the next couple of weeks. But I mean, this is how our team's going to change. I don't think it stops Kansas City chances of being there. Again, I kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the question. Kelsey's not going to retire. He wants that three-peat. Now, if they don't win it, even if they do win it, I don't know if he cares enough to go for 4. He is a competitor. He is a baller, but things will probably change at that point. Does Reed come back for a 4th time? Reed comes back this year. We talked about San Francisco coach. Some people have said if they won, Reed's definitely out. I don't see it. I think the legacy of a three-peat, doing something that no one has ever done before, I think that keeps Reed around this season. Am I wrong, Adam?
No, I mean, I don't think Reed's going anywhere. And I think if Reed was going to retire, it probably would have happened already. He probably would have did it on the stage or in the post-game press conference. I think if he was going, he would have known already that he was definitely going. Yeah. I think, look, if I'm Andy Reid and I have Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to ride it for as long as I possibly can because he truly is going to do something special. In the same way that we talk about Mahomes chasing down Brady, Andy has that same opportunity to chase down Belichick. Yeah. And again, after that narrative that most of his career, he was the guy who can't win the big game, he can completely flip it to the guy who has the most rings in NFL history.
In NFL history. You're absolutely right. And like I said, that's how I see it. A lot of people don't see it that way. They think, he got it, he's going to leave. Not with the chance of that three-peat in there. I don't see it. That's just me. I don't know. Look, we talked about a lot of the stats, a lot of the numbers and stuff. Let's talk about the money in your pocket. That damn sports network, a splice of that sports podcast network that we are on. They are the betting side of the house, and man, did they bring it. They used to be Wake and Rake. All right, now they've upped their game because they're just that dang good. They were on the Super Bowl special, and these are some of the props that they laid out. If you listen to them, you made a lot of money during the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Appreciate you. Dan, what we got going on next?
Well, it's the moment you've all been waiting for.
Sorry about that, folks. That is the wrong video. That is the whole video. That's what you want to go see. You want to go see the entire thing. I'm telling you, it was absolutely amazing. And so let's actually get the actual results. It's a lot faster.
I want to kick it back to you. I want to hear some props.
I think I like the under 47.5.
I'll ride with you, man. I do like that under today, man. Well, I like the under in the first half as well, under 23.5.
Over 3.5 field goals for the day.
I like over 3.5 field goals. You could get that plus 140.
Kyle J, first reception, 30-1. Jawan Jennings, you've seen step up in big moments. You've seen him get some volume there.
How much on Jennings? 1.5 receptions. I kind of had the over on that one. He
bust one off at any time, which is Mecole Hardman. Kelsey's going to have a big game. He always steps up in these moments right here. You got all the other nonsense surrounding the game. Kelsey's going to get his today.
I was looking at his yardage. He's got 71.5 coming into this game. I see no reason why Kelsey's not going to get over that number.
I like Rice under 66.5 receiving yards. I also like under 6.5 receptions.
He did take his over 14.5 receiving yards in the first quarter.
I got both teams for a touchdown and a field goal, 26-1.
I like one of the big ones would be there. I like Elijah Mitchell over 4.5 rushing yards.
Mahomes 9 to 11 carries plus 425. And I took Purdy over a half passing touchdown in the fourth quarter plus 135.
Distance of longest punt over 56.5 yards. Largest lead under 14.5 points.
What's the over and under on Reba today?
I
Yeah,
grabbed the over
that's what I'm supposed to
128
do,
at
too.
plus
Does
105.
that not over 4.5 for amount of planes in the flyover? Niners, you have value in betting anybody but Purdy for the MVP.
It is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It only takes one play. Whether
Exactly.
he catches that one opportunity, I don't know. But you know what? He's going to maybe get that opportunity.
But you see, those guys they hit big. You guys could have hit big if you followed them. You said you got a little bit. What do you think of some of those props that they had? Not so much the flyover one and stuff like that, Gatorade color and things like that. But you can definitely comment on those. But some of those props, I mean, they hunted them out. They bird dogged some of those bets. It was pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, like I was with them on some of the unders, like I definitely liked, the under, for the first
100%.
half because we see that a lot in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
General public is always going to bet the over. You know that, like the general public loves the overs on big games and televised games. So there's always a decent value market on unders when you can spot them. This felt like that type of game. And this actually ended up being a strange under for the game total because it went under 47.5, which is where it was for a while. As it got closer to game time, it went down to 46.5. So it was one of those where, like, if you got it early, you won. If you took it late, you lost. It's just crazy to me how Vegas always hits the nail on the head, with a lot of that stuff. It's just wild. They called out the Rashi Rice unders, which I thought was interesting, and I did like those picks as well. I didn't play any unders on Rice, but I definitely had no interest in taking his overs. So calling out the unders, I was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, they impressed me across the board. I was talking to them all game, like, I can't believe you hit that one. You hit that one. Yeah, I mean, they're just nail them. It is interesting about.
One I really liked, and I can't remember if they said it, but it was one that I was on as well. Is it was 2 Kyle Juszczyk's props out there.
Yeah, that was the first one.
For receptions was 0.5. All he had to do was get one reception. His over-under for yardage was 3.5. He only needed 4 receiving yards. I was over on both of those, and those hit pretty quickly.
They did talk about that one. They did talk about the yardage, and they also got the first catch. I think that one was 25 to 1. It was either 26 to 1 or 30 to 1. I get confused with all the big bets that they went. That was a huge one. And they called it. They said it. They said, go for it, get it. And if you did, you got paid. You got paid big for that one. It was crazy. And you talk about the line. They, again, these guys, this is what they do. Again, Callista with over a 47% unheard of ROI rate for the NFL season. But, and she has a free newsletter, by the way. So go to that look up Ariel Callista and get her free newsletter. She tells you exactly what to bet on every single day, and she does it for free. And if you listen to her, you make a ton of money. She makes a ridiculous amount of money. Again, 40%, over 47% ROI on this NFL season. Ridiculous. But you mentioned the line, and they mentioned it, how Vegas always gets really close on this line. And one of them said, Vegas has 2 weeks to study on this too. It's not just NFLers, it's not just the teams who have 2 weeks to prepare. NFL has 2 weeks to prepare as well, and they run all this stuff. They talk about, it's scripted. Vegas is running it. Well, look, Vegas is just really good at what they do. Like Ariel Callista and like the crew over there at Smoke the Spread. I mean, they're just really good. They put in the time, they put in the effort. They know what to look at and how to look at it. And let's not forget that Vegas is the one setting it up. So they're, even better. The house wins for a reason. It's because they know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, and if you're really damn good at it, like the best of the best out there, what they'll do instead of competing with you is they'll hire you. Like if you're beating their lines all the time, they'll find you and they'll hire you.
Oh, they've all tried to hire Ariel, and she won't go. She's like, nope, this is me. I'm on this. This is me. I'm going to be a shark. I'm going to be old school. And that's what these guys talk to. These guys talk to these old school sharks. They get, they learn. They make all their bets and stuff. They don't use other people's bets. They make their own bets. They set their own lines. They do their own stuff. And again, if you watch the show, they mentioned a couple of like big name sharks in the industry that, talked to them and said, yep, that's the right bet. Good job. These guys Go make some money with Smoke the Spread over on Rumble every weeknight, Tuesday, Friday, on Sunday. Ariel Callista, again, arielcallista.com and all over the place. Ariel Bets 702 on Instagram. Get her free newsletter and make a lot of money all throughout the year. She doesn't do just football. She just happened to hit over 47% on the NFL season. If you're a sports bettor, you know what that number means. Adam, that's the season, my friend. That's the whole thing. That's bumper to bumper. That's pre-bumper. I mean, we set up every single game and the records and all that before the season ever started, before the injuries, before any of it. We came out over 60%. We made it all the way to the Super Bowl. We brought the stats and the numbers that you need to win. We're going to keep bringing them to you throughout the entire offseason. We're going to be talking draft. We're going to be talking free agency. We're going to be talking everything NFL all the way up until it starts again. But that's it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. This is the big shebang. This is our Super Bowl, Adam.
Yeah, and it's been a roller coaster of a year. There's been a lot of ups and downs, with a lot of teams and a lot of, surprises, as there always is. This felt like a year where, the Super Bowl was going to be different. But when it was all said and done, the two preseason favorites were the two teams to get there. And the ultimate preseason favorite was the one to win it, because Patrick Mahomes, once again, though he doesn't have a great team this year, this was the worst version of the Chiefs that we've seen since Patrick Mahomes took over as the starting quarterback. So his worst version in his 6 years, still good enough to win a Super Bowl.
That's it. There you go. NFL writer Adam Hulse. Go check out his stuff. There's his info again at Adam Hulse Sports on the socials. Just go to sportskita.com, put Adam Hulse, and check out all those great articles. How many are 20, 25 articles a week of all the NFL knowledge you need? Does that get dialed down now a little bit? Are you gonna do 19 articles a week instead of 20?
No, we don't slow down. The off season is just a whole nother season. It's a different approach, but things never slow down in the NFL.
Adam Hulse bringing it every week over there on Sportskita. We're going to bring it too. We're setting up the Fox Force. We're going to have a newsletter. We're going to give you all the stats you need to win your fantasy matchups, your fantasy games, and not the stuff you can just click on. This guy had the most yards. This guy, it doesn't matter. So we're talking about the matchups. We're talking about the next gen stats of fantasy football so that you can get the team that's actually going to win and get some of these guys that are actually going to do well. Now, look, nobody saw Puka coming, things like that. But, we're going to set you up nice to make the right place so that you don't end up drafting, an Austin Eckler as the first pick and get stuck with that, or an Aaron Jones who didn't play half the season. We can't do anything about the Aaron Rodgers or the Joe Burrow injuries, but we're gonna get you ahead. We're gonna give you a step up. So keep an eye on us at that EFIN show on all the socials and sign up for that newsletter when it comes out in just a couple of weeks. We'll keep hyping it up and then we'll put it out and you will want to get it. Again, Adam, that's it. I got one last time. Anything left to say before we sign out of this one?
Well, we expected the unexpected this year, as we always do, and that's what happened. Look, there's a lot going on in the offseason. There's going to be a lot of breaking down by us. We absolutely crushed it on our team-by-team predictions this year.
We kind of did.
Hopefully we can live up to that next year, because there's pretty high expectations on our predictions going into next season with how good they were preseason this year. So we better bring our A game. That's all I got to say.
I think we're going to do better. I think we're going to beat it. That's my goal. That's always the goal, right? To beat the last. I think we can do it. I think we can beat
Absolutely.
it. I won't have Carolina Panthers going with double-digit wins. I guarantee you that next year. But, hey, it's been fun. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We will keep bringing it. That EFIN Morning After Show on That Sports Podcast Network. Check us out. Show us some love. Ring the bell so you don't miss anything when that newsletter comes out. We appreciate you. Everything that you guys did. Adam, I appreciate you most. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to an amazing offseason. On behalf of Adam Hulse at Adam Hulse Sports, I'm Chris Fox for That Sportscast Network. We'll see you guys next week.